In this video, we'll talk about how to make a successful product out of your app startup and not become a failed inventor, but instead become a wealthy innovator. My name is Ivan. I've been building software startups for I think 8 years now, and I failed more times than I care to admit. Definitely more than 10 failed startups I have behind my back. I don't know why I'm talking yet like Yoda in reverse order, but I hope you see what I mean. But I do have one successful startup, which is the reason why I think I kind of know how to build a successful startup now. And I've seen it so many times. I've analyzed so many other startups and companies and apps specifically. I hope this video can help someone who is just about to start on their journey in creating their app or their app startup. This is definitely something that I wanted to hear when I was starting out, because at that time there was no great resource online for how to start an app and how to build a successful app. So I had to figure it out on my own. And by the end of this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to identify a problem, which is the best way to find an idea for a product. And I know it sounds a little bit awkward, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. Then we're going to talk about what's the best way to get there, meaning how to dive deep into any area in business or life and find the big problems that deserve a great solution. And then we're going to talk about how to come up with strategies to build those solutions, which are good solutions, which are bad solutions. That's where we'll wrap up for this video. So first of all, let's rewind back 8 years ago when I was starting out. The reason why I wanted to build an app is, first of all, I think it's pretty cool to build something that people want to use. But then also, of course, I wanted to make money. It wasn't just about building a cool thing. It was about making money with that cool thing. And with the building part, I was relatively successful because I already had some software development experience by that time. But the making money part is the part where I failed. And that's why I say I failed definitely more than 10 times. So initially, because I had no idea what else to do, I was building consumer apps, as we call them nowadays. And consumer apps are apps that just like your regular end customer downloads on their phone and they just use them. At the time, apps were still paid upfront, but freemium apps and apps with subscription models and in-app purchases were just like launching. So yeah, surprise, surprise, my first app was a to-do app. I still think the idea was pretty cool. It was a combination between a few productivity techniques. So one of them is called Kanban, meaning you organize tasks in columns based on their statuses. But it also had two other techniques. One of them is called getting things done, meaning focusing on only one thing at a time. And the other one is called the Pomodoro timer, meaning you could start a timer inside of the app so that you can see how long you're working in a specific session. I don't think there's still another app out there that does this exactly in this way. And I was building it for myself, so I really knew what I wanted to build. It was super shitty in terms of how it functioned because it was my first app. I had no idea what I was doing in terms of iOS development. The app was cool, but I had no idea how to monetize it. So my great monetization strategy was just make it paid. People had to pay before they download the app. And I think it was $2, $3. It was super cheap, obviously. But still, I didn't make a lot of money with it. Maybe I can find exactly how much money that app generated. And also, my genius marketing strategy was zero marketing. I think I did like one Facebook post, maybe. Or two, and that's it. That was the big marketing push that I did back then. But anyway, that was like, let's say, the humble beginnings of my app development or app founder journey. And then there was some other apps. I'm not going to get into the details with that. I launched a few SaaS products as well. One of them still has some potential. I have one desktop application, which I also think still has potential. All the other apps are complete failure. For some of them, I spent significant amounts of money because at some point I stopped building the apps myself and I was paying people to do that for me. So I've invested a lot of money in those apps. Aside from one in which I'm, let's say, a de facto co-founder, even though I'm not actually a co-founder, but I think I bring as much value as a co-founder to the table. Aside from that one project, which has been a massive success, to be honest. Everything else has been a complete failure from my perspective. So building on top of that foundation and getting to that successful product was something which I think not a lot of people get to experience, especially in the way that I have. But why is that important? It's important because in all my other failed attempts to build a successful company, the problem was the product most of the time. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't marketing it, it wasn't anything else. The problem was the product was not great. The to-do app was a great product for me, but maybe not for a lot of other people. And it wasn't actually solving any big problems. So there were already enough to-do apps on the market even then, 8 years ago. The one company that I'm part of, which has been successful so far, is the one that actually solved a great problem. And I didn't come up with the problem myself. Actually, the first time I heard this, I was kind of laughing, maybe really laughing, because I thought it's not a great idea. I was like in my head, who the hell is ever going to use that? Who has that problem? I didn't even know that people had that problem. But the actual founder of the company, he knew that a lot of people had the problem. He knew that he can make a product out of this. And he was right, obviously. This was the first product of its kind at the time. It's plant identification using AI. And it's now a big market. I think there's more than 100 apps in the App Store alone that do AI plant identification. But I was laughing at the idea because I didn't even realize that this was a problem that someone had. I think for that specific reason, it's very important to first work in a specific field. Like, for example, the founder of that specific product, of that specific company, he already knew the field and he already knew that this is a problem. He had spent a lot of time learning about nature, learning about biology, botany, and all these fields. So he already knew the fact that there was a problem there because he had worked for a long time in those fields. He knew the fields very well, and he knew that he can solve that because he realized that this is a big problem. My first attempts were not like that. I wasn't solving any big problem. I was just coming up with cool gadgets, which actually nobody wanted to buy. And that's why in the beginning of the video, I say, you don't want to become the poor inventor. You probably can all relate to what I'm talking about. A guy sitting in his garage with his bunch of inventions. Imagine that inventor, he's sad, he's poor, his kids are like trying to help him sometimes, but they can't. His wife maybe left him or something else happened. Like, it's a very sad existence from my perspective. The person you actually want to become is the wealthy innovator. And the wealthy innovator is the person that actually takes something that someone else invented and turns it into a successful product, into a successful business. So how to do that? I think the best way to do that, and this is specifically important for everyone out there who is now working in a specific or random company, doesn't really matter, and you're thinking that you're wasting your time in that company, that you're wasting your potential, you're wasting your best years and all that. And I'm here to tell you, this is not true. Actually, if you do it smart, you can use those years that you're wasting to find the problems in that field that you're working in. So again, moving back to my own example. Right now, I'm working in the field of mobile app development. We're developing apps for clients. We have our own projects and things like that. One of the things that I'm deeply involved in is the marketing efforts for our clients' apps and for our own projects as well. One area where I've identified a big problem is email marketing for mobile apps. It's probably not a good idea to say this in a video that I'm going to make public. But anyway, there isn't a great product out there that does email marketing for mobile apps. You can prove me wrong in the comments if you know of one. I'd be happy to take a look. But all the ones that I've tried ever have not been great. I don't mean like they're not great in terms of, oh, I don't like them. I mean, they're missing key functionalities in order to make them actually good products. You have to do stuff outside of the product and then move it into the product in order to make it work for you, which is a key sign that there's stuff missing in that product. But I'm only able to identify it by working in this industry more or less as an employee, because I'm using those tools, I'm using the software for that industry. So I'm able to dig deep and identify the issues in that industry. And you can do the same by working in a company, by being an employee. You don't have to start by building a business right away. Or actually, it's probably even better not to start by building a business right away, because you might end up like me. You might end up building this cool gadget. I'm probably going to do it in a separate video. I'm going to tell you all the time that I spent building that thing. It wasn't fast. We didn't have ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you guys have right now available, or we have available. It was just some random YouTube videos, some sketchy courses, and then there was one good resource for learning development. That was just the iOS app part. I had to build a backend, I had to build a landing page. I mean, I had to do all those things, which are now actually relatively easy to do, or easier. So I spent a lot of time, which I didn't have. I was working a job at the time. So I was like you. I was doing it in my spare time, after work and during weekends. So you can imagine what that did to my social interactions with the world. They were basically non-existent, aside from the one person that we were working with, who, by the virtue of us working together, we basically became best friends, because I was spending more time with that guy than with my girlfriend. So I mean, yeah, it's not a great thing to do and then have it just fail, have it just fade away. I wasn't happy. I'm laughing now, but at the time it was not funny. Spending all that time and having all those hopes and dreams and have them be kind of crushed because you just built a cool thing which no one actually wants to use. So try to find problems by digging deep into a specific industry. Regardless of the industry, everywhere there are problems to solve. Good problems to solve are things that save time, things that save money. Every industry has that. For example, before I got into software, I was in the construction industry for 10 years. One of the things that was a big problem there is the amount of paper in the construction industry that is used to this day. And construction industry to this day is still one of the least digitized industries in the whole world. And it's one of the biggest industries in the whole world. Recently, I read for a startup that raised some money. With AI, what they're doing is they're making documentation, storing and sorting faster for construction companies. So someone is already solving that. I think they raised like 20 million US dollars, which is a good raise, because obviously they're solving a problem which is a big problem. I think every industry has these problems that you can solve. You just have to be in there if you want to be the founder. The other way to do that is to be a co-founder, like I was technically in that plant identification app, because obviously the guy with the knowledge of the problems was not me, but I was still able to see everything and see the product succeed, regardless of the fact that I had no idea that this was even a problem, and I even laughed. And last, before we wrap this up, I want to say, also think about the fact that not every problem can be solved by software. There are some problems that are either not solvable by software, or they're solvable by something else, not the software. For example, I had one app idea or a startup idea, which would kind of record everything you do. It would take the photos that you do on your phone. It would take your location. It would just become like this assistant to you that knows everything about what you did, where you were, who you interacted with, if you want to give it access to your chats and things like that. And you would be able to ask questions like, oh, remember 2 months ago I was at the restaurant, what did I have for dinner? And you can take a look at your photos and it can tell you what you had for dinner. So kind of like an extra brain to remember stuff so that you can recall later. And I kind of was thinking, should I do that as an integration in the phone? Should I take the photos, the location and everything else, yada, yada, yada? At some point, I just realized it's too complicated and people have to give access to their location, to their photos. I mean, it's just too much. People don't want to give access to their push notifications nowadays, let alone anything else. And yesterday I saw something which is solving more or less the same problem with a similar solution, which is glasses with an extra thing here, probably some kind of camera. And they capture photos every 15 minutes. There's no microphone, it's just images. And every 15 minutes it records an image, sends it to a server. The server analyzes the image and basically stores all the information for you. And then you can start asking questions about that restaurant that you were. Where was I 1 week ago? Friday evening or whatever. And this, I think, is a better solution than mine, because you don't have to take out your phone every time. You don't have to give access to your location and things like that. It just takes these small images. They're relatively low resolution images of everything you do, and then it has access to all that information. It's a better solution to the same problem. But yeah, I think that concludes the topic of how to find the idea that is going to help you build a great product and a great company around that. As always, guys, thank you for listening, and see you on the next one.